shopped or shopped, leaved or leaved. Do ed verb endings leave you scratching your head? Well, this video is for you, and luckily you only need to follow a few straightforward rules. Let's get started. As you probably know, we use the ed verb ending to denote the simple past in regular verbs. There are three possible pronunciations: d, id, and t. We will start with verbs that end in that t sound. And for the purposes of this video, we will call them category 1 verbs. But these categories are in no way universal. I am just using these categories in this video. We use the t sound for verbs that end in unvoiced consonant sounds. Unvoiced meaning you do not engage your vocal cords. So if I were to put my 2 fingers on my neck, my vocal cords would not move, meaning there would be no vibration. These sounds include p, f, s, ch, sh, and k. Repeat these words after me. Fluffed, passed, marched, fished, cracked. And remember, we are looking at the particular sound that the ending consonant makes, not necessarily the letter. So for instance, the GH sound in laugh makes the F sound, which is unvoiced. So it would also take the ed verb pronunciation t, laughed, laughed. Same thing with a verb like face. It ends in an E, but the sound it makes is s, s. So it would also take that ed verb pronunciation t, faced, faced. So now we're going to move on to category 2, which is those verbs that take the ed pronunciation id. And this one is even simpler. Verbs that end in either a t or a d sound take the ed verb ending id, id. Here are some examples. Painted, wanted, shouted, lifted, banded, decided. So now we are moving on to those verbs which take an ed verb ending d. And basically all other verbs that do not fall into categories 1 or 2 fall into this category, category 3. And these are usually voice sounds, meaning you engage your vocal cords. Meaning if I placed my 2 fingers on my neck, my vocal cords would vibrate. Here are some examples. Loved, pinned, waved, cried, smiled. All right, so now we are going to apply all of these rules we just learned into a little practice. So I want you to practice saying these sentences using the correct pronunciation of the ed verb ending. Sentence number 1, I enjoyed this lecture, but hated that the speaker arrived late. Let's take a look at that verb enjoyed. Enjoy does not fall into categories 1 or 2. It does not fall into category 1 because it does not end in a voiceless consonant sound, nor does it fall into category 2 because it does not end in a t or d sound. It ends in a voiced sound, so we would say enjoyed. Now let's take a look at our second verb in that sentence, hate. Hate. Hate falls into category 2 because it ends in a t sound. So we would take the ed verb ending id. And lastly, we have arrived. Arrived. Arrived does not fall into categories 1 or 2 because 1, it does not end in a voiceless consonant sound, nor 2, because it does not end in a t or d sound. So it would take the ed verb ending d, falling into category 3. Now let's have a look at our second sentence. We wanted a teacher who not only watched, but respected and inspired children. Let's take a look at our first verb in that sentence, want. Want falls into category 2 because it ends in a t or a d sound, so we know it takes that ed verb ending id. Next, we have the verb watch, watch. Watch falls into category 1, right? Because it ends in a voiceless consonant sound, ch, ch. So it takes the t verb ending. Next, we have respected, respected. Respected falls into category 2, right? Because it ends in a t sound, so it'll take that ed verb ending, id. And the last verb we have is inspire. Inspire. Inspire does not fall into categories 1 or 2. In fact, it ends in a voiced sound, so it takes the d verb ending. And there you have it, folks. Another pretty straightforward English lesson. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a like. If you think somebody you know might also find this useful, feel free to click that share icon below. Feel free to leave me a positive or a negative comment. Doesn't really matter. And until next time, English learners.